And the state legislature will have $1.2 billion less to work with in the 2011 budget than it had for the 2010 budget. And that most likely means agencies will continue to cut their costs. Leaders will also discuss ways to increase revenue. While none of them are talking about raising your taxes, they are expected to discuss increasing the fees you pay for state services, bond issues, and getting rid of tax breaks. Joining us this morning is Pat McGuigan from the CapitolBeatOK.com. He joins us with details on what's going on. All right, what about these tax breaks?
It's a very interesting issue, and it brings together an unusual coalition. It'll depend on exactly the details, as the old expression goes. The devil is in the details. The governor is proposing that some tax credits be ended. Now, there's certain ones that benefit businesses that the state chamber, for example, is very strong for. But the governor won't be alone. There's Republicans like David Dank of Oklahoma City, who's been very critical of these over the years. And then on the other side of the aisle, Senator Tom Edelson of Tulsa has talked about this. A group called the Oklahoma Policy Institute has done some very detailed studies on ways that the state might save money by giving greater scrutiny to those tax credits that the state has. And now, a tax credit kind of is in the eyes of the beholder, so the details will be very important as this is debated.
Sort of like in the eyes of the beholder, we're not going to increase your taxes, but we may increase your fees. You still end up paying more.
It could be. Yeah, it could be. And there's some fees that definitely are what you would call a user fee, and those would probably not provoke as much controversy as anything that people would consider a tax. And the argument will certainly be made that if it's a tax, it'll have to be voted on by the people.
Well, Pat, we know the Senate Appropriations Committee is going to start working on what to do with the rainy day fund. We know that 220-something million is going to be allowed out of the rainy day fund. Is there any, I don't know, pecking order of how you go about dipping into the fund?
Yes, there is. It'll start today in the Appropriations Committee in the Senate, and then the members of both houses will have to vote on the individual line items. In fact, the agenda for the Senate theoretically is 50 pages long right now, just listing individual bills. So there's a lot of work to do. The pecking order, though, is there's certain agencies that are going to get some supplemental appropriations thanks to that rainy day fund, with the Health Care Authority, $33 million being perhaps the most interesting, and then Common Education, K through 12, a total of over $100 million, and then there's others like Higher Ed, and of course DPS, the Highway Patrol. So they'll be getting a little bit of help to where their cuts are held to low single digits. Most of the rest of the agencies are still facing that 7.5% average cut, and those will probably go up to close that gap for next year.
All right, Pat, we have a deal in place between the governor and legislative leaders, but I think safely we can say it's not going to be easy to put it all together.
No, there's critics on both sides of the aisle, so there'll be debate.
All right, Pat McGuigan at CapitolBeatOK.com. Thanks for joining us.